Yo, what's up, guys? Welcome back to another UFC MMA Breakdown podcast. And in today's podcast, we're talking about Chuck Liddell wants to see fighters like GSP stop playing it safe. Former UFC lightweight champion stops by ESPN to talk about his knockout against Tito Ortiz and the bashing by Floyd Money Mayweather. And if you guys have never seen the Chuck Liddell fights versus Tito Ortiz, I think there was 1, 2, and 3. Those were some of the best Tito Ortiz and best Chuck Liddell fights of all time. But Chuck Liddell's basically saying people like George St-Pierre, people like John Jones, they're basically playing it safe. And I don't see John Jones. Maybe John Jones is, but I don't see that. Because at least John Jones is finishing fights. And if you look at a lot of the champions as of late, you had Benson Henderson to do the exact same thing as GSP. They play it safe. They know how to win rounds. You see okay, I'll just say this. You see guys like Matt Brown, which is not a champion. You guys like Joe Lozon, their mentality is, go for broke. I'm a warrior. I'm going out there to fight or be knocked out. And Joe Lozon has that mentality. He goes out there every time to put on a show. Put it this way, who's more exciting, Joe Lozon or GSP? GSP has went 5 rounds more than any fighter in the UFC or probably in MMA in general. He has not gone less than 5 rounds, I think, since he fought Matt Serra. And when did he fight Matt Serra? Like 2009? Y'all know what's making me sick? Is the government shutdown. They shut down, right? Then you have all the military people where at least I live. I live in a military city in Jacksonville, Florida. And the military store, that the commissary is what they call it, all of those are shut down. All the people who work in these military, like work on a military base, like my brother's in-laws, they're not being able to get paid now because the government shut down. So it's not just, it's hurting people who work in the commissaries, people who work in military bases. It's fucked up, to be honest. And the government doesn't care because the dudes are still making their 6 figures. They are still being able to go on their lavish trips to the Bahamas, to Jamaica, or to Japan, wherever they want to go. They still have that ability because they're still making money. And people like my brother's in-laws are now struggling because they can't afford anything because they're like, yeah, I just lost my paycheck. I'm not working until this government shit comes back. And the people, because I went to the store last night, and I was like, on Tuesday, why is there like 300 people in the grocery store at 9 o'clock at night? And I found out the commissary is closed, and all the people that were in the store were military people trying to get their groceries when normally they would buy them on the military base. And to be honest, the government needs to step their game up and get their shit rolling. This is the first time in 17 years that the government has shut down. I mean, shit, what you should do is fire everybody and start over. These fuckers are lame. Oh, we can't come to an agreement. Well, what you should do is cut everybody's checks. Say, okay, for the next month, none of you motherfuckers are going to get paid. You shouldn't pay any of these people that work in Congress. Make them only get minimum wage, the same amount the same amount as a dude working McDonald's makes, and see the struggle that average people have. They don't give a damn about regular people. The regular people who work at the commissary, they're making probably $8, $9 an hour, and they're struggling, and they need that money, but now they're out of a job until the government comes back because the government helps the military keep these stores open. But that was just a little rant. What do you guys think of this government shutdown? It makes me sick that people that I know personally are like, yep, I'm not going to be working until the government comes back on. Really? Fiction. And if you guys want to hear a real legit podcast that I came across, thanks to Errol Hawani, the Stone Cold Steve Austin podcast. Oh my God, you're talking about wrestling. Yeah, I'm talking about Stone Cold. He really has a podcast that you can find on iTunes. And basically the dude talks his mind, speaks his mind, talks to wrestlers. He talks to Chael Sonnen, and he does a lot of MMA interviews, so you guys might want to check him out. It's called The Steve Austin Show, or something like that, on iTunes. Just type in Steve Austin, and you can find the podcast. Anderson Silva would stop fighting MMA if the UFC makes him fight Machida. I understand these dudes are teammates, right? But won't you want to be one of those guys when you retire, you could say you fought the best and you beat the best? He's just, I never understood why a lot of these MMA fighters like, I will not fight my buddies. I won't. It's like Alex Gustafsson said, if he was the UFC lightweight champion, if he would have beat John Jones, which he did beat John Jones in my mind and a lot of other people's mind, he said he would still fight his teammate Phil Davis because he knows Phil Davis would want a title shot, and he's not going to be like, well, Phil Davis, go down to 185 because you're not going to fight me, right? Come on now. It's not, I know it's a team sport when you're training in your training camp and in your gym, but it's a one-man sport when you're in the cage. It's not Chuck Liddell and his team. It's not Anderson Silva and his team. It's Anderson Silva's the one fighting. So, would you guys think Anderson Silva's being like a bitch for saying, nah, I'm not going to fight Lyoto Machida at 185 because now Lyoto Machida is at 185. Would you want to see a Lyoto Machida fight Anderson Silva? I think that would be a hell of a fight. It would test Anderson Silva all day, every day. But like I said, check out that podcast because that podcast is sick. I just started listening to it last night and it's very interesting. But I gotta warn you, this dude drops the F-bomb a lot. More than I do. And I know I cuss a lot in my podcast. But like I was saying, guys, I think he's just overreacting. I think fighters should fight the best fighters in the world. That's just my opinion. Oh, and Mark Munoz is not going to be fighting Michael Bisping because Michael Bisping got injured. So if you guys want to check out MMAfighting.com and actually see the full interview of Michael Bisping and what happened, you can. The injury bug struck hard and fast this past weekend as UFC middleweight Michael Bisping was faced to withdraw from Manchester Homecoming 4 years in the making after suffering a severe eye injury in the lead up to his UFC Fight Night 30 battle against Mark Munoz. I want to see that fight. I think Mark Munoz versus Michael Bisping would have been a hell of a great fight. I'm a big Michael Bisping fan. I think Michael Bisping would have won that fight just because it's on his home turf, his hometown. Michael Bisping's top 2, top 3 in the weight division. But he got an eye injury that almost stopped his career. But what do you guys think? Do you think Michael Bisping could have beat Mark Munoz? Or do you think Mark Munoz would have beat him? But that sucks when a fighter gets injured and they have to withdraw. So I'm not exactly sure who Mark Munoz is going to be fighting at UFC Fight Night 30. But I wish it would have been Michael Bisping. Sure shit. You know, Joe Rogan's talking about, if you go to MMAfighting.com, you can read the full article. Joe Rogan calls MMA scoring very flawed. And I agree with that. You don't score the whole fight. You should score it round for round. That's how I see it. You should say, okay, Gustafsson won round 1, Gustafsson round 2, but they don't. They score it as a whole fight. Like, oh, okay. Like over in Pride, they scored it like that. They didn't do the 10 must system. But my honest opinion is a lot of judges, and I was listening to Dan Hardy talk. Dan Hardy brought this up. A lot of people who judge do not watch MMA when they're not judging. And what I mean by that, let's say a guy judges on the John Jones fight versus Alex Gustafsson, right? Then for another 6 months, he's not even watching MMA because he's not getting paid to judge. So in reality, This guy does not know what an armbar is, what a triangle choke is. He doesn't know. And a lot of times, judges don't have a monitor, which I think the best way to implement judging or scoring into MMA, and you guys might think I'm stupid, but looking at Rob Dyrdek, a professional skateboarder, he put this in his skate league. The skateboarders there, they can look up in real time and they'll say, Tony Hawk has 77 points, and this other skateboarder has 50 points, and it's going to make that guy who has 50 points step his game up and actually work his ass off to try to beat Tony Hawk. So, if you are a fighter, and let's say you were Nick Diaz versus GSP, and it said, GSP is winning 40 points to your 20 points, that would make like Nick Diaz go for broke to win that fight. It wouldn't be like, okay, you think you're winning closely, but you don't know. So, that in my mind would be the best way to implement scoring into MMA. Because if you look at like every other sport, baseball, football, soccer, the teams know by looking at the scoreboard, oh, we're losing 27-4. We know what we're losing by. And in MMA and boxing, that should be a clear implementation, even in boxing, because it would say Floyd Money Mayweather is winning 39 points to your 5, and it'd make the dude who has 5 points step his game up and go for broke. It would make more for an exciting fight. I don't know if you guys believe what I'm saying should work, but I've touched on this before. It's fucking genius. Put in a game plan where you know what your rounds are. Say, GSP is winning round 1, round 2, round 3. Okay, you got 2 rounds to finish this guy, because you know if you go to the judges, you're losing. Even if they don't say it's 20-37, they could say GSP is winning the first 4 rounds, and now Nick, you have 1 round to finish this guy, go for broke, and that would make the fight more exciting. So tonight, UFC primetime on Fox Sports 1, Junior Dos Santos versus Cain Velasquez 3. I don't know, man. If Junior Dos Santos, it hasn't really got his wrestling down, because you know that's what is the main thing in this fight, is Junior is going to get taken down, and if he can stuff a takedown, then that's going to be bad for Cain Velasquez. But I still think Cain is the better fighter, the more rounded fighter. He does everything great. He has great cardio. He has great stand-up. He knows how to transition from stand-up to takedowns to punching. He's not really a submission guy, but Junior Dos Santos is more of a one-dimensional guy, a boxer. He doesn't really throw a lot of leg kicks, not a lot of punches. Not a lot of takedowns, not a lot of leg kicks, like I said. He did take down Mark Hunt, but it was kind of sloppy. And with that being said, that is the MMA Breakdown Podcast for August 2nd, 2013. Let me know, do you guys think, like I said, fighters are playing it safe? Do you think how I was saying about the judging should be fixed? And do you think Cain Velasquez will lose his title at UFC 166, if I'm not mistaken? So, with that being said, I will definitely talk to you guys next time. Remember to comment, subscribe if you're listening to this on YouTube. Remember to thumb the video up. And I'll definitely talk to you guys in the next podcast. Bye-bye.